Sometimes dead is better.
Sometimes dead is better.
Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are on Sunday night, ready to go back into Battle World. And tonight is going to be an interesting one. You know, sometimes you got to find out if things can be improved upon or not. And that is probably a good running theme that we'll have tonight with our special battle that we've got queued up. Real quick, just to say hey to you guys in the chat. What's up, Jerry and Paula? And we got Kelly in the house and RJ. What's going on? All right. Let's see. Who else do we have? Gory Tiger. We got Barb in the house. What's up, Barb? Good to see you. And congrats on the 100 subs.
Yeah, she did it.
She did it. Well, I knew she would. She was only a couple away. And like we say, the replay, phases out, every so often. I forgot how it works, but I've heard from many people. And so congrats. Big congrats. Mm-hmm. We got Jean. And hey, we got Erica in the house. What's up, Erica? And we got Oliver saying hey to everyone. What's up? Good to see you guys showing up for tonight's discussion. I think is going to be fantastic. What's up, David? All right. Well, listen, tonight, look, Stephen King has obviously just been a legend in horror, and we've been really fortunate enough on the channel to talk about quite a few of his adaptations and his work, which is just absolutely awesome. Kill, let's start with you. Let's go to Kill's commentary. We've got the OG Pet Sematary against the remake. What are your thoughts, man? What's your opening thought for Kill's commentary?
Man, we got the fastest driving tractor trailers known to man coming down the roads in both of these movies. What we have here is two movies that are the same and yet vastly different.
Yes, that's true.
Vastly different, yeah. And a lot, your mileage is going to vary on that, because there are some people that are just like, oh, that's that thing there. That's not my pet cemetery. What's yours is your property, and then some people are going to be like, yeah, this was a pretty good, remake. So this is going to be an interesting one, and I have definitely been looking forward to this one. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely, man. And just to say, for Coriander and I, and Coriander, if you want to say anything about it, you can. We spent we spent the day sifting between the two of them, and I just want to say, man, and we'll get more into this. I don't want to skip ahead to things, but the story itself is a great illustration of how horror can be very subtle and creepy, but yet very effective. Severely effective. So it was cool revisiting this, and Eric, I'm glad that, and I know we talked about possibly doing this before a long time ago, probably.
I remember
about it.
Well, I remember when we were doing our 50th episode, I think it was, and there was a section of that where you allowed the chat to throw in certain ones that they would like to see for future Battle World. And I always have my phone next to me to watch the chat as well. And when certain ones popped up, I just did a quick screenshot.
Yeah.
And I did this one, Pet Sematary versus Pet Sematary, and I threw it out. I don't know if Coriander was there when I threw it out initially, but I know Killian was there, and I knew he really dug the idea.
Yeah.
I knew I at least had him on my side, and I
Yeah.
remember you said you hadn't seen the remake at the time,
Nope.
Bits and Pieces, and I didn't know if Coriander had seen it, but I
She
knew we
did.
all enjoyed the original.
Mm.
And I'll say this: I've been super excited because everyone knows my love for the original. You know,
Yeah.
I've come full circle. That was the first time I was ever on your guys' channel.
That's right.
First channel. So I have that. I love the original. And I'll say this: I always say remake everything. The original is still intact. You might have a good movie, remake or not. I went opening night, and when I left that theater, I had a smile on my face.
All
I
right.
won't show my cards yet until we get to the choose category.
Right.
But
Right.
I was very, very happy, and I was very nervous going into it. You know, because even though I know, like I just said, the original's still there, you still want it to be really good. You know what I mean?
You don't want it
that
to fail.
attachment. Right. And
Yeah.
I left the theater super pleased, smile on my face. I made a review. Like I went down straight to the basement. I just told the wife hi, went down to the basement, let my thoughts out because I enjoyed it that much.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get ready to do this thing. And we got Barb also saying it's the situation I feel the remake is better than the original, and that's not common. All right. And Oliver saying
Can happen. Yeah.
just thinking the opposite. All right. And Ty in the house, what's up? Saying I can tell I'm gonna want to watch the remake once you guys are done. I've only seen it once and thought it was fine. Well, guess what? We're gonna talk about it, but we're gonna do it category by category. And what we're going to do is give the point to the film that we think deserves it, not based on bias or anything like that, but just trying to be as honest as we possibly can. For you guys in the chat, let us know what you think as well. We can't get to everyone's comment and or question as much as we'd like to. But if you choose to, you can send in a super chat. It'll do a couple things. Number one, we appreciate the support. It helps us out. But number two, and maybe just as importantly, we're going to make sure we get to your comment and or question, and you can put that super chat as points to the version of Pet Sematary that you want to win. So in other words, if you send in a $5 super chat, you can put those 5 points to the film of your choice.
One thing I want to say before we get started tonight is now that we have these two different categories, we have classic and we have the new age title.
Right.
This will, if the OG wins, classic Stephen King gets a victory, and he will be at 6, so he gets a shot at our boy Jason.
Ooh.
If the remake wins, thank God, because Stephen King is 0-3 when it comes to post 2000. So this
isn't that crazy?
Will be his first victory.
And let me also remind the chat, and I know a lot of you guys probably weren't here, but if you weren't, you need to go back and watch it, because when Stephen King had the title shot the last time, coming in with Carrie, which Coriander was not on that episode, and my God, that was I'm not going to say anymore. You guys could probably put the pieces of the puzzle together. Some way, somehow, things happen on Battle World. So we're going to go category by category. Let's start this thing off as we always do. Kill. Let's talk about the poster. The poster. We've got the poster for Stephen King's Pet Sematary from 1989, and we also have the one from 2019. Who gets the point and why?
This is light work for me because I actually own this poster. The remake. I love this poster.
Okay.
And I know sometimes we're not really big fans of like the whole cast being on the poster, but the kind of, I don't know, painted, hand-drawn kind of look that it has, I don't know if it actually is, but to my eye it kind of does. And the shadows of like Jason Clarke's eyes and so forth, and then Mr. Church up there like doing his best Black
Thanos.
Phillip impersonation.
Yeah, okay.
It's just a badass poster. And then of course the little girl in the center. I mean, it's just a lot going on there that draws my eyes to it. When I look at the original poster, I see some dude's eyes. He's got a yellow and blue eye thing going on. I see a microphone. He's about to, bust dope rhymes. I don't know.
No, the microphone is us, man. That's not part of the poster. Come on.
I know, I'm just messing with you. But and I know they're from two different time periods, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's just something about the newer one that I really like.
Okay, all right, Eric. How about you?
It's easy street for me. It's the remake. As much as I love the original, I've never loved the poster. I've never really enjoyed it. I don't like the way Stephen King's name looks to begin with, with the small letters in a big one, then a small one. And I think it's kind of cheaply put together. Half of Victor Pascow's face, and then we have a little picture of Church at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And to jump on what Kill said, yeah, it's true. We don't really like the floating head posters like Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer. I don't consider this one a floating heads poster because they're used differently. It's not just Courtney Cox and David Arquette right there in front of Ghostface. These are part of the image itself, and like you said, it looks like it's shading. Like you take a graphite pencil, like you're making a shading type of piece of artwork. Jason Clarke looks like a skeleton because you like his skull, like you can't see the one eye. Man, Jud looks mad as hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he does.
Like he like Lewis,
and he should be.
Yeah, like Lewis, he done fucked up.
He should. We'll get to it. Jud in both of these movies should be very upset.
Yeah, and it's just done so well, and the way the crosses look. One of them's tilted. I know it's just different, and then the way Ellie looks right there, just looking at you like, turn around and go home. It's a very effective poster. I love it.
All right. Okay, Coriander, how about you?
Oh man. I mean, they're both okay. If I had to choose.
Yes, you do.
I mean, I know. Damn. The only thing why I like the new one is because of the cat, and that's it. I don't care for the heads and shit. So then I look at the other one, and I mean, I think I'm gonna have to go with the old school. The woods, it's creepy. Pascow there. I mean, you don't know who he is, but you're like, unless you read the book, then you know the short story. But yeah, man. Yeah. So I'm going with the original.
All right. For me, I think that this is actually kind of tough because I think even though the old one, I don't think it like hits you over the head. No pun intended. It does have a little bit of creep factor with Pascow there, and then you got the woods underneath, and it's a weird choice of coloring, but that's also kind of what makes it stand out for me. Whereas with the new one, I think it looks great. It's uniform and everyone's obviously within church, so it looks cool. But at the same time, like it's an advantage and a disadvantage of the color tone of the new one. You know what I'm saying? Pet Sematary looks great with the lettering and it stands out. But this is actually kind of tough to me. But I think I'm going to edge it out to the remake, just barely. And again, I think it's just because I like the way they're within church and the look on his face and so forth. So I'm going to barely go with the new one. Okay. All right. Let's go to our next category. The tagline delivery kill. This isn't about the tagline because we know they both got the same tagline, but what we're talking about specifically, without going through any other thing, because obviously you guys know we have a lot more categories, specifically the delivery of the line, sometimes dead is better. Who did it better? Was it John Lithgow or Fred Gwynne?
Okay. I like how you specified that.
Yes.
I'm going to have to go Fred Gwynne. It's just something there with that accent. And I don't know if he's trying to do like a New Englander accent or if that's just Fred doing. Yeah. So I don't know if he put too much on it or not. But yeah, the way that he delivers it, it just sticks in my mind. There's no lying here. I got to go Fred Gwynne. All
right. Eric, how about you?
This is tough. I did not rewatch the original. I know it, but like the back of my hand. But I did rewatch the half of it last night after our stream, and though I finished it up this morning. It's tough because they're both delivered differently too. So different.
They are. That's true, and I can't wait to explain my thought on it too. But they are delivered differently.
I think I'm gonna have to go John Lithgow in the remake.
Ooh.
And as much as I love, how Fred says, sometimes that is better. He's trying to convince him convince Lewis. Sometimes it's better that way. A little after a little story. the way Lithgow says it, he sounds pissed. He's like, no, sometimes dead is better. Like he's definite with his delivery. You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
Leave it alone. Like he's trying to. They're both trying to make their point to Lewis, but Lithgow's he's like, no, sometimes dead's better. Leave it alone, type of thing. And just that forcefulness that John Lithgow, I think that just ekes ahead of Fred Gwynne's delivery.
Wow. Okay. All right. Coriander, how about you?
I am definitely gonna go Fred. John, he did great, but yeah, like Eric said, he was more forceful. Where Fred was warning, and more like, I don't know, someone who cares. Not someone who's. I'm not saying he didn't care, but just his approach, you wouldn't know it versus the other. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well said. For me, the only reason that there's a challenge to this is because I think so highly of both of these actors, in different ways, of course, because their careers are very different. I mean, obviously, John Lithgow has been in 1,000 things. Fred Gwynne, not so much, but he's just iconic. There's two different ways they deliver it, and I think Coriander said it perfectly. I think, and you too, Eric, with John Lithgow, it just kind of like, that forcefulness, whereas I think Fred Gwynne was much more. There was guilt in there. There was emotion, and it was a cautionary thing. But all things being even, it's easy enough for me because this has to go to Fred Gwynne. It has to. I think that the way it's delivered, it's cautionary, but it's also haunting. And as many times as I've seen Pet Sematary, and this might be one of the few times. And I mean, I think, Eric, you've probably seen it more than me. I've seen it a lot over the years, but Kill, when we were kids, we saw this. We watched it with my mom. And so this is definitely like going back home watching this movie. But just watching it, not even an hour before we went live, a lot of stuff started to flood back to me, and when that line was delivered, I remember saying to Coriander, that was amazing. And Lithgow's was as well, but I'm just saying Fred Gwynne, he kind of hits those notes. So I'm going with Fred Gwynne on that one. Okay. In the chat, we've got RJ going with the original for the tagline. Ty is going with Fred. Okay. All right. Paul is going with the OG. Okay. Very, very cool. Our next category, let's see what we have next. It's the score. The score in the film. Kill, who has the better score? Who are you giving the point to?
Unfortunately, neither one of them have the music is memorable for me. And maybe that's just on me. I'm not really. The only one that is popping up is the original, and there's kind of this. I don't know if it's a theme,
yes,
for Jud, or whatever, or like when he's first taking the whole family down to the cemetery to snitch and tell the whole family, all of them, hey, come here, all of you guys. But that kind of tune kind of peaks in my head. Unfortunately, the rest not so much. So I'm gonna go with the original.
Okay, all right, Eric, how about you?
I'm going to go original. There are some good scores, and the scores is usually my worst category. I have a hard time remembering it. So, and I think the only reason why I'm remembering the score from the remake is because I just watched it.
Yeah.
There are some good, intense pieces of music in the remake. There are some really sweet, melancholy type of pieces of music, like when the family first gets to their home, it's stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to score, the original, the opening score, when we're seeing the cemetery, and I said it way back when we did Poltergeist, I think Poltergeist versus The Conjuring, I think it was. What makes a creepy score even creepier? You have kids singing in it. You know what I mean? And those little children singing in the beginning of this movie while we're just going through the actual Pet Sematary, not the Native American Pet Sematary. It's chilling to me. You know what I mean? And it's a tone setter of what we're going to get.
Yeah.
So I gotta go original.
All right. Coriander, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going original also.
Okay. All right. For me, this is, I'm kind of echoing a little bit of some of the stuff that you guys are saying. The original had, some really intense moments in the score, had some great moments for sure. But man, so this is the easy street one for me. The score in the original, it has a lightheartedness to it, almost an innocence to it, yet it's kind of combined with sinister. You know what I'm saying? Like this feeling of like, happy-go-lucky, and like you said, Eric, the kids are singing, but yet it's like, no, bro, they're not singing for Christmas. This is bad news. You know what I'm saying? And it's creepy, and it's all throughout the movie. Kill, if you get a chance to well, I'm not saying you have to do it now, but I'm just saying, if next time you watch it, if you just listen out for it, it's pretty damn creepy, man. And even when you get throughout the film, the high moments, the finale, and it's just, and even at the end, when somebody's waiting for somebody, it's like, this is creepy shit, man. I mean, it's not on the level of Elm Street or Halloween, but Elliot Goldenthal, who also did the score for Alien 3, and other great films too. I just think he outdid Christopher Young. Christopher Young did a great job on the remake, but I don't think it's even close. Elliot wins this one for me as well. Okay. All right. Let's see what we have in the chat. Kelly said, I don't envy these battles. This is so hard to choose. It is. It is. It is. That's why we love doing these, though, just having these good battles and discussion. Ty saying, same. I fail to remember any musical cues or themes from either movie. And I understand that. He says, watching these videos enough, you'd think I pay more attention to scores. Hey, you said it, bro, not me. But no, I'm just playing. But no, sometimes people, you just don't focus in on the music, and sometimes that can be a good thing because it doesn't distract. You know what I'm saying? But it's the original. Both films have good scores, in my opinion. But I think the original, it just really has this. It's just, I don't know. It's just more present. You know what I mean? So. All right, next category, Kill. Let's talk about the atmosphere. The atmosphere in these films. Who would you give the point to for the better atmosphere?
This one is tough. Because I feel both movies, had great atmosphere for what they were doing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna barely give it to the new one, and my reasoning for that is just some of those scenes where they were actually in the Pet Sematary, it's dark and the moon is so bright,
right?
That it's like blue. It's like they're underwater almost a little bit. And I could just kind of feel the air watching. I know that might sound weird to you guys. The mist is kicking up a little bit, and it's like, it's not really chilly because it looks like it's summertime, but you can kind of just feel the air.
Yeah.
Especially towards the end of the movie with the confrontation with our lead character and someone who he brings back. But they both really have good atmosphere, but I'm barely going to go with the remake. This one.
Okay. Eric, how about you?
This is tough, and Kill made a lot of really good points. I think I'm going to slightly give it to the original because that one just, to me, it has a little bit more heaviness to it. At least to me, it feels a little bit more of a heavy movie. It feels a little bit more creepy, and I don't know what else to say. It just hits me harder, and it just creeps me out a lot more. Like, I watch them both in the dark. Which one's going to affect me more would be the original, because just little bits and pieces of just certain scenes, the way everything adds up. I just think there's a little bit more, and especially as a horror movie, to the atmosphere and the way I feel watching it with the original.
Okay, all right. Coriander, how about you?
I mean, they both have really good atmosphere. It's really on what you prefer. You've got your nice 80s. This was in the 80s, right? It was the 90s.
Yeah, 89.
Yep.
Okay. So, it still had that 80s feel. It was gritty. The other one was too, but this one, I don't know. I'm gonna go old school. I'm going old school.
Okay. All right. And real quick too in the chat, we've got Kurt in the house saying I'm a fan of the remake over the original. Okay. All right. Welcome to the chat. Hope that you're enjoying the conversation. Ty is going with the remake for atmosphere. The atmosphere and set felt more intentional. It was intended to be brooding. Okay. Well, my opinion on this is, because when I think of atmosphere, to me, it's a lot of things, and it's not just the tense moments. Atmosphere to me is like how does the town feel? How does the connection with the people feel? And to me, it's got to go to the OG, in my opinion. And here's the reason why. Because I think, and Eric, you said it, all of you guys said a lot of great things. Eric, you said that it's heavier, and I agree. It is heavier, and we're going to get to some specific points to illustrate exactly where I am going to illustrate exactly what I'm talking about. But there were these heavy moments. The score helped the atmosphere. Again, you had lightheartedness, but then a sinister feeling. When we first see Victor, you get this sense of the people around, and obviously a certain person who makes a certain choice because she was tired, so to speak. And I just think that the OG had a bit more, and I think the remake did well with the atmosphere. And like I think it was Kurt that was saying, it was brooding, and there were moments of that, especially when you had Lewis, Jason Clarke kind of sitting and just kind of, there were a lot of scenes kind of like that, when he's stepping outside of the house in his dream and then you see just the doorway. There were moments that really slowed it down. But I think overall, I think the OG did it a little bit better, or had more of it, so to speak.
I will say this, there's that scene in you want to talk heavy, the scene with tension in the remake that got me. It's the simple campfire scene when it's Jud right next to Lewis before Lewis makes his decision. You can feel the tension, Lewis's intent, you know what I mean? Just the way the camera is, that you see like his side profile, and he's just thinking, and he's been drinking for at least an hour type of thing, just considering it. So that is one scene of heavy that I will give the remake for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it definitely had some heavy scenes, no doubt about it. And I think they did a great job with it. Real quick too in the chat, saying hey to Gory Tiger. We got Super Tenor in the chat. We got May in the chat. Hey guys, and Oliver saying hit and smash the like button. Yes, please. If you haven't hit the like button, please do. It helps to support the channel, and we would highly appreciate that. Okay, let's go to our next category. The effects. The effects. Kill. Who gets the point for the effects in the film?
This one's kind of hard. But I guess I'm gonna strictly go off of Church, and that might be a cheat, but I got to go with the remake, because Church, at least the first half of this movie before other people start coming back, he is front row and center, until he gets taken for a ride and but just obviously he doesn't speak, but the way he looks, his movements, him snacking on a bird snack and having a meal in bed, hey mommy, daddy, look what I'm eating,
and it was still alive, bro.
Hey, cats are hunters, there you go.
Right.
But yeah, it's just his movements were very believable, and the effects were really good on that, and other things like the kid who got hit at the beginning, where the brain is kind of exposed a little bit. There were a lot of other ones, but then granted, there were some effects in the original that weren't the best, but it's an older movie, so you got to take that for a grain of salt. But yeah, this one I'm gonna go with the remake.
Okay, Eric, how about you?
Good points, and you are correct about Church looking a lot better and being a better character, in my opinion, in the remake. But if we're talking effects, I'm gonna go with the original. I think both Zeldas look great, in my opinion. So I'm gonna say they even each other out when it comes to effects.
Yep.
I think the original Pascow looks better, as good as, and maybe it's because we see him a little bit more in the original and not in as many shadows like we do in the remake, even though the remake looks really good. But I really, in both Achilles tendon scenes are really good. We'll leave it at that. So my deciding factor, it has to be what Rachel looks like at the end of the original film. That to me looked amazing because it's not just her face, carved out. We've got some pus that comes just out of the middle of nowhere, and just certain scenes like that. When it comes to like the practical effects that just stick out more to me than what we get in the remake, which is still very good in its own right. That's what it's difficult for this one tonight because we know how I feel about the original, but man, that remake is just so freaking good in my opinion. But I will go in this category with the original.
Okay, all right, Coriander, how about you?
I am actually gonna have to go with the original, and it's for the way Zelda looks. I think she looks a lot creepier, and yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is tough. This is really tough. Now, obviously, there's a lot of time in between these films. So, but it is what it is. So I'm not letting that really weigh my decision. We obviously know that the effects in 89, there's a couple things like, when Lewis sees the vision of Jud, when he was kind of coming up from him from down below. Yeah, it's horrible. But it's not horrible, but it's just not great. But I'm just going to base it on what we see. And, you guys have great points. Zelda was phenomenal in the original. I think, a smidgen ahead of the remake. Rachel at the end, though, you're right, Eric. As soon as you said that, I was just like, I was even thinking that when we were rewatching it, I was like, holy shit, man, for 1989, that was a home run.
Yeah.
Gosh. This is tough, man. You know what?
Go with your gut.
It's tough, bro. All right, let me talk this out a little bit. Originally, I was going to go with the remake, because I think that, there's a handful of things that are just really, really good. And it is. But I'm going to go with the original. This is one of the few times, because usually by me going last, I have plenty of time to get myself prepared to just say what I'm going to say. But this is one of the few times where I'm flipping because of the fact of, I think both Zeldas are great, Eric, but I think the original kind of edges it out a little bit. Of course, we know the backstory of it being that it's not even a woman, and I would have never known that until learning about the film. But Rachel at the end, bro, that was just even watching it today, I started to kind of like, oh, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to edge it out to the OG. Okay. Ty saying Zelda is the most sickening and frightening example of practical effects, and that wins it hands down. Absolutely horrifying. Right? Scary stuff, man. It still kind of, hit me a little bit today. I was like, man, I remember seeing that as a kid. Kelly saying I like the FX in the remake better. The remake had some great ones, man. It really did. It really, really did. Okay, next category. Let's see what we've got. The scare tactics. Scare tactics. Kill. When we talk about scares in the films, which film had the better scares or was more effective at scares?
I guess the way I'm gonna have to just go at this is kind of how they affected me, at the time of viewing. I feel I'm gonna have to go with the original.
Ooh, okay.
And for one of the reasons, one thing Eric said, Pascow, you see him so much more.
Yeah.
Hey, come this way, or hey, what you doing? And it's like, oh, geez. Whereas in the other one, the initial part and then the rest, a little bit of shadow. The ground is bad. It's bad. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Between that and then what's his name? Gage.
Yeah,
like
Gage.
Little things like with Gage and so forth, and clearly the wife towards the end of the original. and things of that nature. I'm gonna have to actually go with the original on this one.
Okay, Eric, how about you?
This is tougher than people might realize, at least for me. The original has some great stuff in it. Like when they're going, it's just a loon. You know, when you hear the Wendigo,
right,
or the children singing in the beginning, Pascow, this and that. I think I'm gonna go with the remake after this last watch, and it's scary when they're in the woods going from point A to point B to the burial ground. I think it's more scary when it's only a loon scene, because you get to hear some shuffling. You hear more than just what could have been a bird, making a noise, a loon in the original. That wasn't no fucking loon in the remake. You know what I mean?
right.
I don't know if this is a category or not, so I'll keep it vague. I think they handled the Zelda stuff a little bit better with how Rachel took it. Thinking she's in the walls. You know what I mean? That shit's scary. Jump scares, both of the films have jump scares. I think the trucks were used better when it comes to jump scares in the remake. And there's a couple more that I'll keep secret just in case, not to spoil future categories. But I just think they were used better, honestly, in the remake for me.
Oh, all right. Coriander, how about you?
I'm gonna go the original.
Okay. All right. Any particular reason?
I think, like the walk to bury the cat, you get to see, well, I guess it just shows, like, because in the remake, it doesn't show anything with, like, the native side, where, and that was, like, a big part of it, because that was native land and Wendigo and blah, blah. So, yeah, I just think where they showed, where they buried him, that it was sacred, that it did have, markings, and you could tell that, it was sacred land. So, yeah, I like that.
Alrighty. For me, and we might be getting to certain things like that later on, just to tease that to you guys. But as far as the scare tactics, I think that both films were very effective, and they obviously had some differences. The original obviously has some great moments, but I'm actually going to give this to the remake, and I'm going to tell you why. I think that the remake, I agree with what you said, Eric. And it's going to be interesting when we go to another category. That's why I don't want to jump ahead too much, because I've really tried to, put out a bunch of categories here for certain reasons. But when they were walking, and Jud and Lewis were talking, and they're walking, you can see the foot go into the water and all the crud at the bottom. I'm like, what is going on? Like Kill said, the brightest moon of all time. Those type of scenes. Then the lightning, the sounds, but then when a certain person, is coming back doing their best Abigail, I'm just like, wow.
Man.
That was, what I'm saying? There was a lot of cool stuff that they were able to do that they couldn't do in 89. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm giving this to the remake. It's a tough category, but I do think the remake edges it out. Okay. Let's see what we got going in the chat real quick. Kelly was saying the OG on scare tactics because you had no idea what was coming. With the remake, you already know to a degree. That's true. I mean, obviously, that's an advantage of sorts. No doubt about that. But I will say, without getting too far ahead, I know we keep saying that, but there's a reason you'll see as these categories go. But I will say, it's funny because I read an article after we were done watching the remake, because this was the first time I saw the remake, by the way. I don't think you mentioned it, Eric, but I want to make sure that's clear. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I totally, it was never on my list to really watch. And like I was telling Coriander, it just goes to show that you never know until you watch something. And I'm open-minded to remakes, and there's a lot of remakes I love. I mean, I've got a great example of one right behind me, but this was just one that I just never really was big about watching, but I'm really glad we're doing this episode tonight because I think it's going to be a great discussion and battle. Okay, let's see what we've got next. And what's up to Jason in the chat? Hey, how you doing? Next up, Kill, the emotional death. And of course, when we're talking about the emotional death, I think we all know what we're talking about in the original and also in the remake. Now, this category is just talking about that scene, how the accident happened, and also the aftermath right after it. And obviously, you know who I'm talking about, the reaction in each film. So that's what this category is about. Which scene of the emotional death was better? Kill, what do you think?
See, this is tough because they in the remake they kind of throw a little curve ball at you, which was very clever and
it was
and got me. They both did great jobs. That's very tough and scary, sad stuff. But you could see the foreshadowing, from the moment the movie starts with the fastest tractor trailers known to man. I'm still gonna go with the original. And my reasoning for that is, and this is going to sound really just, wrong or weird. It was the younger kid. It was literally the baby. Both him and his sister, they're both kids. I get that. But it's just something about that. And then also just the fact of with the original, and this is cheat for the original, didn't know that was going to happen. I had not read the book prior to it. And it's just something about the way it's portrayed with the family and the aftermath. Both families and both groups of actors did well with that, but it's just a gut punch personally for me that the first one delivers that's a little bit more powerful, just a tiny bit more powerful than the remake. So I'm going to go with the original. Barely.
Okay. All right. Eric, how about you?
It's tough because they're both done so well.
Yes.
We keep alluding to it, but the switcheroo that we get with the remake, that's still done very well because you think they're safe, but then you have the tanker come off and take them out.
Right.
And I've told you, Knight personally, and a lot of people that I look at both films differently now becoming a dad. I think I'm gonna go with the original, and not necessarily with why Kill said it because it was the younger child. I understand that reasoning, but for me, and some people are usually 50-50 with how Lewis screams to the heavens. They either love that cliche or they hate it. I'm fine with it. I think the use of the shoe really hurts. But since becoming a dad, what really gets me is after Gage is he's killed. After he's killed, we get to see baby photos. We're going from the birth. I hate to say it, to the death. It's another cliche, but it works. I've said it. Shout out to last night our stream on H2. Regardless of what anyone thinks about the film, we all agreed. Rob using home video footage of Danielle Harris as a young child hit. Seeing baby photos of Gage, because he's only like 2 or 3 when it happens, it's harder.
Right.
So I got to go original.
All right. Okay. Coriander, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, the dad's reaction in the remake, I mean, me as a mom, I would be fucking freaking the fuck out. And I get their shock and whatever, but I mean, I don't know. I think the dad in the original, like Eric said, with him screaming to the heavens. Yeah, that is very believable. So yeah.
Okay.
I'm going with that one.
Right. Okay. All right. For me, this is an interesting one because I do think both films did a really good job with the scene. Now, granted, we obviously the remake, we had expectation and so forth. But actually, before I give my answer, and Eric, I'm sure you know this very well, because the twist was spoiled for me, and I can't remember exactly how. Was in the trailer, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's how it
and
was.
The directors were furious.
Yeah,
the directors did not make that decision. They were ticked off bad.
Yeah, as they should be.
Yeah.
As they should be. That might be one of the biggest examples, and not the biggest, but it's definitely one of the biggest examples of how to really, let me put us on here, how to really screw up something big, because that would have been phenomenal. The gut punch would have been so hard, you know what I mean, like for that scene. So
I blame Jason Clarke, because it was this and Terminator Genesis. We had that scene spoiled too.
Oh my God, so you're right.
Blame Jason.
Jason's got to stop messing us up, bro. No, I'm just but yeah. But so the twist was already spoiled for me. But I will say, even with that notwithstanding, so they played with our expectations of, you think it's going to be Gage again, and we're like, oh no, and then how it goes out. And I think it was fine, although as far as it hitting Ellie, I think that took a little too long. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like maybe they should have happened a little bit quicker to get that punch in there. And I also think that once Lewis is coming around the corner of the truck, and you see Rachel kind of slump down, and they drown them out, their reaction. Now, number one, I think that was smart, because you're not going to outdo what Dale did in the first movie, like it or not, you're just not going to outdo that. So don't try, do your own thing. And so they did do their own thing. But at the same time, I didn't feel it as much. So obviously I'm going with the original on this, but it's because of everything surrounding the reaction as well. I do think the reaction was better. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, this was crazy, because this is a big moment in the film. But yeah, I'm going to go with the original. Okay. All right. Yeah, I know, May's like, we got to stop watching trailers. I know. I can't believe that they just, God, I can't just believe they did that. It's so crazy.
I mean, it also depends. Like to me, sometimes spoilers get me excited. This one did get me excited when it was spoiled, but I understand, like, that would have been cooler if I didn't know going in.
Yeah, because that scene, I don't know if it would have made me give it a point now in this category, but that scene, I think it would have been as effective as they planned it to be, because they planned to make us think the Gage was going to get it again.
The fake out was great.
Yeah.
The fake out, how they did it, was great.
Yeah, but the fact that the trailer did that, and even the poster, even the poster is a spoiler of sorts. So I don't know what they were thinking, but anyways, real quick in the chat, May saying the OG, because man, I cried when that death happened. I'm not gonna lie, guys, and we just watched it, like I said, and just before we went live or whatever. It still gets me, bro, when he's like, no, and they showed the little pictures of cute little Gage. It still gets me 30 years later or whatever. It's crazy. Barb saying that was so rough. The funeral scene too. I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Barb saying these categories are so fair. I'm curious how the score will shake out at the end for the winner.
Yeah, me too.
I'm curious too. I'm very curious. No doubt about that. Thanks, Barb. Paula is going with the OG for the emotional death. And May, thank you for putting the link in for Eric's channel. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you guys do it. Do it now. Do it now.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. May saying that's why I love Battle World, to Barb, because it makes you look at these movies in a different perspective. Yeah. I think that's what's really fun about it, to be honest. Ty saying I prefer the ending of the remake. Granted, I didn't see the trailer. Aha. Okay. So yeah, it was a good twist for you. Awesome. Okay, next up, Kill. Let's talk about some Victor Pascow. In both films, obviously, he's a presence, but who gets the point and why?
Well, we kind of talked a little bit about him a little bit. He's a little bit more prevalent in the original. So with that basically kind of being said, I'm gonna have to go with the original, the Victor in the remake is kind of being a harbinger.
Yeah.
You know, they both are kind of being harbingers, but he's more like, you know, don't trust the soil. You know, you tried to help me, I want to help you, blah, blah, blah. That was pretty much kind of, you know, other than just kind of staring at him in the mist a little bit, this and that. Whereas in the OG, he's a lot more prevalent. He's kind of having conversations with them, giving them a little bit more information, in my opinion. And just more screen time. So I'm gonna go with the OG on this one.
Okay, all right, Eric, how about you?
This is easily the original. My problem with Pascow in the remake isn't necessarily that there isn't as much. We don't really know if he's really a spirit or if he's just a dream that Lewis keeps having. It's always a dream state, you know, because he opens the door and he's suddenly in the forest. You know, just that one shot where he's in the doorway, but there's the forest behind him, so it's always a dream.
Yeah,
you believe that the spirit of Victor is really there, warning him in the original. You know, and I think because of the added screen time, Brad Greenquist, his performance is really good. You know, it's the scene where he's calling Lewis down to the cellar. I tried to help you, Lewis, because you tried to help me. It's endearing. Right. He does care about Lewis. He really wants to help the Creed family. In the finale, I know we're going to get to that, Kendra, but when he's telling Lewis, don't do it. Here's another, cliche scream. You believed Victor, not knowing that Lewis is going to do what he's going to do, but he doesn't want him to. And then there's also some moment of levity. You know what I mean? When he's trying to help Rachel get home, he stops the stewardess from closing the door. There's a little happy dance when he's sitting in, the airline seat and stuff like that. And then when she says, "Oh, I think everything's going to be fine," I'm not. Because there's more of him, and Brad's allowed to shine more. And again, you really believe he is a spirit instead of maybe just a dream in the remake.
All right. Okay. Coriander, how about you?
I definitely have to go with the original. I mean, you guys said it. He's in it more and, all that other stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. For me, I'm going to go with the original as well. And, again, this is one of those categories I think that it isn't very close. And, as no disrespect to the remake, I think, again, they had to make choices. And I do appreciate them trying to do some different things, which they were successful at a few different things, which we'll talk more about that. But in the original, one thing you said, Eric, too, that I wanted to key in on, he was enduring. He seemed like he really cared. Even the conversations that he had with Ellie, he's a good ghost, and granted, that wasn't his performance, but it was him, right? Yeah. And so it just made you. And this is one thing about Stephen King that is so intelligent, but in so many of his works, you do have these forces that are not just for evil. You know what I'm saying? They may not always be, roses and so forth, but they are a force for good or caution. And I think in the original, they were able to portray that better. And more so in Pascow than they did in the remake. So,
Brad Greenquist, he took this version of Pascow after reading the book and reading the script. He said this is he may have his head ripped open stuff like this, but he's like a guardian angel to the Creeds,
right?
And that's how he took it in his performance. He literally had pictures of angels on his clipboard that he kept his script on to keep him in the mood or in the mind frame of that when he performed. So yeah, there are some. They may look like monsters, but they're not all bad monsters. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. And again, I think that's one of the things that is so cool about the way they portrayed him in this film, because he was a full-fledged character in my opinion, whereas in the remake he really wasn't. I mean, he was there, but part of what made him, and I'm not trying to diminish it, but I'm just saying we knew who Pascow was as a character, so some of that connection was because of the OG and not so much in what they were showing us in the remake. So all right. In the chat, May was saying, this is cute. She's going with the OG. Barb's going with the OG. And May was saying, I didn't understand that Victor was a good guy in the OG. He was so scary. He haunted my dreams, right? Yeah, absolutely. And hey, we got a channel member anniversary for Nightfall coming in. 2 years. He hit it. 2 years, baby. Awesome stuff. Said, hello, family. Sorry I'm late. Happy Sunday. Well, good to have you here, man. We appreciate that. Let's do a super chat clip for that just to celebrate. And let me just also say this too, guys. And we have other folks here in the chat that have been channel members for a long time. We really appreciate it, guys. Not to get into conversations, but we always try to think of some really fun stuff to do. We try to think of what we can do to bring as much value to you guys, especially those that are very kind and generous to be channel members, and especially for those who are able to do it for a long time, like Nightfall. So we just want to say we really appreciate what you guys are able to help us do for the channel. So let's do a clip. And Kill, sometimes when you think you're teaching someone how to do something, you may not really know exactly what you're talking about, and it could look like this.
Let go, it locks firmly in place. So really, you're all set. And this is tough.
It is.
Listen, give you an example. Say you have you have to get up on the wall, high ceiling, vault the ceiling. Hey, listen, just walk right up.
Look at this. Somebody come look at this.
It's very safe. It's durable, and
Carol,
it's lightweight.
you're scaring me.
So really, see,
Wow.
now it's locked in place. Okay. So really, you say,
Oh God, Harold, are you okay?
you say,
Oh God.
you say,
Oh God.
you say.
Oh God.
Kill.
He folded up like the dude in the bed in Freddy versus Jason.
He did. Wow. Oh, I was waiting to play that. That was awesome. Woo! All right. That was great. Okay, guys. Next category. This is crazy. You knew we were going to go there sooner or later, Kill. We have to get there right now. Let's talk about Zelda. But what we want to do is we are going to compare not just Zelda herself, but how she's used in the film. Okay, if that makes sense. If you have a question on it, just let me know. Maybe I don't know if I'm explaining it well enough, but how Zelda is used in the film.
How about this? So you say Zelda herself, but as in how she used in the film, does that mean like how the memory affects Rachel?
Well, yeah, because that's part of how Zelda is, how her effect in the film. Absolutely,
Gotcha.
That's exactly what I mean. All right, Kill. Who gets the point?
Since you put it like that, that clarifies it a little bit for me, in my opinion. But they're both used to great effect. I'm slightly going to go with the remake. And my reasoning for that, I don't know the actress. I don't know her name. But the way that like she's hearing noises in the upper part of her house, she's looking at like the dumb waiter little, the elevator. When she has the flashback when she's a kid, you see what happens and so forth. And then you see the aftermath of when the little elevator comes back down and then it's kind of like that shot where you're waiting, like what's there. And then the surprise. But that affects her so much that it just keeps recurring and happening. And it does to an extent in the original as well, but I feel maybe it's just the performance that the actress had in the remake that it just kind of it got me slightly a little bit more. And it's just a little bit more of a believable fear and sadness and kind of like PTSD that I get from her version of Rachel. So gotta go with the remake.
All right, Eric, how about you?
Because it's also including the effect it had on Rachel, 100% the remake for me. Zelda's scarier in the original for me because we get to see her more. We get to see the actor more under the prosthetics, later on running up to the camera and scaring Rachel and stuff like that. So the death scene I think is much more effective and unnerving because we see her twist her body when she's choking. No disrespect to the dumbwaiter scene, which how she dies in the remake. But I think Rachel is affected a hell of a lot more in the remake. In the original, we just get a couple monologues, and that's it. We get what we mentioned and what Kill just mentioned. We hear air quotes. We hear Zelda in the walls, and Rachel has been hearing that for 20 some years. We get to see an after effect of young Rachel in the remake, curled up in the kitchen, hearing Zelda instead of just young Rachel running outside.
Yeah.
And then there's that scene in the remake where Rachel is actually Zelda in one of her hallucinations. She's in the nightgown. Her feet and her back are twisted up.
Yeah.
It's more
that was
effective
good
with the PTSD for me, so I have to go remake.
Okay. All right. Coriander, how about you?
Oh, definitely the remake. Both, Eric and Kill said it. You could hear her. You could see how Rachel was more affected. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. For me, it's challenging, because this is a character that I think is effective in both films, slightly different reasons, and obviously a little bit of different take in both films, but effective nonetheless. One thing you said, Eric, too, I think that she is scarier in the original. We see her more. I even think the voice was scarier. That voice, like when you talked about, that at home, that certain people can't watch it for obvious reasons. As soon as you said that, I could hear, that Rachel. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? I'll say this.
It's haunting.
My wife's name is Rachel, and I did tell her that I'm just going to watch the remake because I didn't want, we just moved and we don't have the fan set up properly here in the bedroom. I didn't want to kick her out of the living room. And I did say, to my knowledge, Zelda is not as scary in the remake, so you'll be okay. Yeah. Well, of course, there is that one scene where in the remake she does say Rachel. I'm like, great, I'm in trouble now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, I think in the remake, they just, the way she was used, in the walls, that was so effective. The dumbwaiter and how that also had her twisted up. She's twisted up anyways, and that twisted her up more. The medicine cabinet gag, that was great. And like you said too, when Rachel looks at her hands and her feet, I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? I mean, so I think the totality of that is why I would give the point to the remake. But shout out to the OG, because that scene when she's like, you never get out of bed again and never again. That still is so effective.
When she just pops up in the bed,
bro. Ooh. She gets right. She doesn't go up to the camera. She gets inside of the camera. She's way too close for me.
Yep.
Way too close for me, bro. Zelda, get away, please.
But one thing I think that, again, I don't mean to cut you off, with the remake, Rachel feels more guilty too, because it was an accident. She was feeding Zelda, and Zelda choked in the original. She's not supposed to. She was told, do not use the dumbwaiter because it doesn't always work. I don't know if she didn't want to go up the stairs, if she was just too tired or whatever, but she used it. So I hate to say it, she is 100% guilty for that aspect alone. So she has more of that on her shoulders too.
Yep. No doubt. All right. So before we get to our next category, we got a couple super chats coming in. We got Nightfall coming in with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, man. And he says, for the OG and that super clip. Thank you so much. So we've got, wow, man. So we got 5 points to the OG. Woo. It's starting. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate the support. Much love. May saying OG Zelda hands down, because how on earth they made this woman so scary, right? Yeah. Yep. No doubt. We got Barb coming in saying it's crazy because I prefer the remake, but these categories have me leaning on the OG quite a bit. I prefer the Zelda in the original. See, there you go. See, that's exactly what Battle World is all about. We have folks that many times will come to Battle World, and I love it when right at the beginning of the stream they're like, this movie is going to win, or this one is over that one. It's like, well, have you thought about all the categories? Because that's the whole reason that we do it. So, all right. We also have my man Christopher coming in with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, man. Much appreciated. Saying, I just got here. Don't remember much of either of these films, but glad to make it Anyways, well, thank you so much, man. We appreciate the support, and hopefully, you guys saw the artwork Christopher has done on our Patreon. In our Patreon page, which has been some fantastic stuff, ideas for Battle World.
Was
As
it
we said,
the space image you shared today?
yeah, that was
Phenomenal.
him.
That was
Wasn't
awesome.
that great?
Good job,
Yeah.
Christopher.
So
That was
definitely go to our Patreon.
Yeah.
I also put it on my IG and Twitter, I believe. Check it out. And let me also say the reason why I did that, because look, guys, we've been doing this for a long time, and Battle World is a series we've done for a long time. When we have folks that take that type of time to engage that way, it's really, really special, and we really appreciate it. He was taking the time. He's so involved and excited about possibilities that he gave us a list. We worked on that one last week for our Battle World episode, and he's doing images, man. It's so cool. So anyways,
that was really good. Good job, Christopher.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for the support. We appreciate it. And also let us know if you want points to go to either film. I know you haven't seen them in a while, or you hadn't remembered them, but let us know, man. Let's do another clip for Nightfall and for Christopher. And Kill, sometimes you think you know what's going to happen in a certain situation, but maybe it's not going to go the way you think. And it might look like this.
Drop my phone.
There you go. All right. Look at Kill's face. He was just like, what? Oh, that was amazing. All right. Here we go. Let's go to our next category, guys. We're getting close. They're getting close. You knew we were going here, Kill. Sooner or later, Rachel versus Rachel. We've got the actresses, Amy Seimetz, and of course, the legendary Denise Crosby. Who gets the point and why?
This is tough because I really, really enjoyed both performances. But there's no lying here. I have to go with Denise Crosby. Just I don't it's just something about that performance, and of course even her in the latter part, where I feel like there's a little bit more of her in the latter part in the OG than there is in the remake. I mean, because I don't want to say too much, but if you look at the list of how people died and came back and things of that nature, both performances were good, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Denise Crosby.
Okay, Eric, how about you, man?
Both were good. I'm not gonna lie. I think I'm gonna go with Amy. I think she was a little bit better. I think she had better chemistry with her on-screen husband than Denise had with Dale Midkiff. Love all four of those actors in these movies, but I think Amy did a better job. I believed her more when she was having to be scared. When we've already mentioned, it's a different child, but when we get that reveal at the end when the child comes back and she sees her, I believe that fear. You know what I mean? It's a scene that's not in the original, so it's all new, and I believe that fear. You're dead. She won't hug her type of thing. I just think there was just more to her emotions. Her even like little arguments, faith versus science that she has with Lewis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that, I think, worked a little bit more than what Denise brought, even though Denise was really good. I'm going to go with Amy.
Okay. All right. Coriander, how about you?
Okay, so what was the name of the chick in the original?
That's Denise Crosby. She played Rachel, and then Amy Seimetz played in the remake.
Yeah, is the remake. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the chick in the remake, Denise. Yeah.
Who you mean, Amy?
Yeah, man. Amy.
Okay.
There you go.
The remake of Rachel. Okay.
Yes.
Any particular reason why?
Just because, yeah, Eric kind of said it, when she saw the kid and when it came back and, she was scared. And, yeah, I guess her performance was just a little more believable.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. For me, I think both actresses did a great job, and I think they did different things. I think what I liked about Denise Crosby was there just seemed to kind of be, I don't know if a naturalness is the word I want to use, but even rewatching it, I mean, I've seen the movie a lot of times over the years, but it just felt like, I don't know, natural. I can't say it better than that. It may not make any sense whatsoever. But I'm going to give the point to Amy, and I'm going to tell you why. I think they gave her more range, as far as what she was dealing with, or maybe they gave her more opportunity. Let me put it that way. They gave her more opportunity to kind of get heavy and deal with things. Even the scene talking about, faith and religion, that was a little bit deeper than the one in the original. And you can give an actor all those opportunities, but if they don't hit the home run, it doesn't matter. And I think Amy hit the home run. I really think that she was, very believable in these scenes, and especially when someone comes back. That was a scene where hug that person, and the look on her face, a tear streaming down, and total terror. And it obviously was also a callback to Zelda and all these things, and it just felt like it all came together. It was a great marriage. So and it's crazy because originally I would have thought, when obviously I create the categories, but I don't try to think of what I'm going to vote for. But when I created the categories, I love Denise Crosby, and she's been in a lot of other great things, but I gotta edge it out to Amy in this one. I really do. Right. Let's see in the chat real quick before we get to our next category. I'm saying I like both of them, but I think the remake has the benefit of showing us more footage of Amy in that grieving. Yes, and the interaction with the kiddo. Well said. That's exactly what I was thinking too. Christopher said, "Do you guys retire super clips after a while?" Yes, some of them, anyways. StreamYard only gives us enough room for a certain amount. Which is too bad. I wish they gave us more room, but yeah, after a while I have to, depending on what we have to do in the stream. So, but let me know if you have one that you missed or whatever. Let me know on Patreon and we can talk about that. All right, next up, Coriander, I'm going to start with you this time. So we've got Gage that's resurrected in the original. We've got Ellie that's resurrected in the remake. Which character gets the point? Gage or Ellie? Resurrected Gage or Ellie?
Yeah. So I'm gonna do Ellie just because she can communicate a hell of a lot better than Gage. And I just think it makes her character, the dead Ellie, that much more interesting than the dead Gage, because Gage is just like let's play and
right.
mommy, and you know what I mean. So yeah.
All right, we're going with the remake. Eric, how about you?
100% Ellie. There's more that a 9-year-old can do than a 2-year-old. You know what I mean? And this might be sounding kind of hokey when we're talking about, resurrection and stuff like that. It's more believable because you're still wondering, even I still wonder in the original, how the hell Gage got Rachel's body up in the attic. You know what I mean? A 2-year-old.
Right.
You believe what Ellie can do in this film because 9-year-olds, I got a 13-year-old. I remember when she's around that age, she's very forceful. Kids that age can do what they need to do. And I think that also because an older actress, she has a chance to have more range. You know what I mean? There's certain, that evil look she gives Rachel when she hops on the bed to chase her.
Yeah.
But the little simple things, like you're talking about, doing her best Abigail, when she's dancing around as a resurrected ballerina, knocking shit off the table and stuff like that. Little things like that.
Yes.
really, really good. Or the scene where Lewis is brushing her hair in the bathtub.
Oh, dude, that was getting me. I was like, stop it.
Yeah. You know,
Stop.
I think she was great.
Yeah.
I think she was great.
All right. Kill, how about you?
This is finally an easy street. Ellie. Ellie is a straight up murderer. She kills everyone. Think about it. She literally killed everyone. Sorry, spoilers, guys. But her body language as the resurrected Ellie was just creepy. The looks that she gives, and it's just sinister. It's an innocence, but it's a sinister innocence. You know, that she knows that she's playing, especially on her dad. You know, playing on his belief that this is his daughter, you know, resurrected.
Right.
And yeah, that bathtub scene with brushing the hair and so forth. And she knows what's going through her dad's mind. And still she's like, what's wrong? And it's like, oh, you know what's wrong. Yeah. And then I'm sorry, the most cold-blooded interaction was her and Rachel, where, you know, Rachel barely saves Gage, and she's just right there trying to, you know, backstab her literally, right. and then kind of ending her. So that actress, that, you know, especially to be a young actress, she carried a good amount of the antagonist in this. She did a really good job, and shouts out to her. So yeah, the remake on this one.
She didn't just stab Rachel. If you've got to pay attention, she twists the knife.
Yeah,
when she's talking to her.
Yep.
Yeah. You know,
to me, this isn't even close. But I have a different reason than you guys. And of course, you know, we're talking about as resurrected. But to me, part of the power of her when she was resurrected was how sweet she was as a kid. A regular kid alive. She was such a sweet kid. Like immediately, I remember saying to Coriander, immediately I was like, I love this kid. This kid's great. You know, and we all know that child actors can sometimes make or break a film, and they had to focus on her, you know, for the story to work. And she totally delivered. But then when she's resurrected, she was damn scary. The looks, how they tweaked her voice a little bit. What are you going to tell her? You know, when Lewis is on the phone with Rachel, and what are you going to tell her? I was like, damn, she's not joking around. You know, when she's basically telling her mom, you're going on a trip and it's not north, it's south, you know, blah, blah, blah. When she attacks and kills Jud, like, dude, she was.
What she does to him.
How she messes with him.
Is in the book. What Gage does that, and that's, ooh.
Yeah, I mean. Stuff. What she was able to do was a whole nother level that and I love the original, and you guys know that, you know, but this was a whole nother level that they were able to tap into, and I think it was fantastic. I really do. But it's all because that actress was able to deliver. So like you said, Kill, shout out to her, but this isn't even close. And look, and obviously Gage is so sweet. I think May was in the chat was saying no fair. That's right. You know, it's like he was awesome. But look, this wasn't even close, obviously, and we love him. You know, he was in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. He's a fantastic child actor. But this one is easy. It's got to go. And you know, Miko is great, but this has to go for the remake. Okay.
I got a question for you. We might be too far into the episode. I remember offline last week we talked about something if something goes 4 for 4 in categories. Are we implementing that this week, or are we too far into the episode for that with you keeping score?
You know what? We are too far into it. We are. Okay. But we will start implementing that. We'll talk about that you know, for Kill and Coriander, because I actually forgot all about that. But that is a great idea.
I just remembered
it is
because of this category. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. And Super Tenor saying he met Miko. Oh, cool. He's awesome. He seems like a really cool guy. He really does. He really, really does. Okay, Coriander, let's go to our next one. And of course, we're talking about the Pet Sematary. What I want to do is kind of talk about how, you know, they're shown differently, but yet there's some similarities. But which version do you want to give the point to? You know, we're obviously talking about the Pet Sematary. We're also talking about the burial ground. as well. But just the way that it's shown in the film, and I'll let you explain your answer, as far as your point. But what do you think?
So I think the original is gonna grab that creep factor a little more.
Okay.
The way they light it up, like the poster in certain shots.
Mm-hmm.
The climb looks a little more dangerous. And yeah, just like the authenticity of stuff, you know.
Do you
It
mean
was
like
based. This is supposed to be based in Maine, and the remake was like done and filmed in Canada, where you actually had parts of the original filmed in Maine. So
right?
yeah,
And we know those areas.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
not far from me. So yeah.
All right. Very cool. I'm gonna jump into. Before I get to you, Eric. I'm gonna say this is challenging because I think that what the remake did was it had some different layers to it. I mentioned a little bit earlier, like when they're walking and you see the foot go into ankle deep water and who knows what they're stepping on. You can see into the beyond, and you're like, what the hell is that? I mean, are they on the moon? Where are they at? But I'm gonna give it to the original, and this is the reason why. I think, and Coriander, you mentioned it a little bit. The travel in the new film felt like it was shorter. It was awesome. It looked great. I love that part where it was like stone steps they were walking up. Like, who did that? Who went up there with a crane and made some steps, bro? Like, that's not good news. And that was fantastic. But the original, it just felt like more raw. You know what I'm saying? The deadfall and everything. Plus, when they get to the top and you see the stone structure, that image, when we watched the original, that's still like just kind of like it was almost like it never left my mind, and I haven't watched the OG since we talked about it with you, Eric, and that was we just are celebrating 4 years on this channel. So that means when we talked about it before, that was like 5 years ago or so, maybe 6. So anyways, but when you see that big overhead shot and you see all the stones, around and all of that, it just looks so good and authentic. So I'm gonna go with the original on this. Eric, how about you?
I'm gonna go with the original. I think I liked the journey to the burial ground more in the remake. There's no Jud jellyfish or whatever the hell it is popping out of the water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a more ominous feeling to it. Like you said, we get to see more of it, them going actually through the swamp and stuff like that. But we're talking about the cemeteries themselves, both the burial ground and the pet cemetery. And I think they have a bigger creep factor. I really like the look of the burial ground. It's just the dirt and the way the stones are in some type of symbol. We don't know what that means. So you have that mystery, and because in the remake it's basically just dirt and a couple rocks that we are able to see. And I think the pet cemetery itself is scarier and creepier in the original. It looks good in the remake, but it looks more raw. It looks more built by children. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They talk about how it's misspelled. That's how kids spell things. They spell things wrong. I just think it looks more raw, more ominous, more evil. I think the pet cemetery looks more evil than the burial ground. You know what I mean? It just it feels heavier to me. So I'm definitely going to the original.
Okay. Kill, how about you?
Eric literally said the one factor that was really getting me. I'm going with the original. And it's because of things like the spelling and things on the pets kind of little headstones in the wood and things of that nature. It looks less polished than in the remake. No disrespect to the remake, but it's just something about the look and the authentic look that the original one had. The misspelling, and who's going to bury pets? It's going to be kids, so it's just something about the way it looks. both are ominous, but I just feel the original one had a little bit more like authentic feel to it with that, and which hence makes it a little scarier for me. So I'm going with the OG. Okay.
All right. Let's see what else we got going on. We got David in the chat saying sometimes dead is better or better. There you go. JPEG's in the house. What's going on? Ty saying, man, I can't wait till after the stream to watch the remake. And there you go. Now that's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much for saying that. It's always good to hear that, that we can inspire those types of things. Because, at the end of this, I do want to say one thing about it as a remake as well. Hopefully I remember that. Paula is going with the OG Cemetery. Okay. Alrighty, next up, Coriander, let's go to our next one. You knew we were going to get here sooner or later. Clash of the Legends. We've got Fred Gwynne or John Lithgow. Who gets the point and why?
I mean, I gotta give it to Fred. I liked his delivery of the character. Yeah, he kind of had that extra on the accent, but I mean, that's no big deal. But yeah, I gotta go Fred.
Okay. All right. Eric, how about you?
This is tougher than you'd expect because it's been so long since I've seen the remake. I forgot how good John Lithgow was in this. And he's not trying to be Fred Gwynne at all. Different performance. He's more of a, like I said, he's more mean, or not necessarily mean, but he's more angry with as the movie goes on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fred Gwynne, I'm going with Fred Gwynne. Fred Gwynne is more loving, and we get to see him more because one thing that I wish the remake had more was the relationship between Lewis and Jud. We barely get that in the remake. And it's sad because there's a lot of deleted scenes with them that should have been in the freaking movie, but I'm not going to get into that. Fred Gwynne, and even in the book, Lewis doesn't have a father. His father passed away very, very early. Fred Gwynne is this father figure to Lewis. And you feel that in his performance. Doc, is that you? Yeah, come up and have a beer. You need a glass? No, good for you. That type of stuff. He's a man's man, but he's also the old man who's lived there his whole life. He's seen some stuff.
Yeah.
And he knows, just in his body language, oh yeah, it's a good walk. Good story too. I'll tell you sometime. And he's ominous. And then suddenly when he gets settled in, he chills out, stuff like that.
Yeah.
John is so good, but I just got to go with Fred because I think he's just there's more humanity to him, and that is needed in this film. So I'm going with Fred Gwynne.
Okay, Kill. How about you?
This is also very tough for me because it's the tale of two older neighbors. One who really wants to be your buddy, and one that wants to just be kind of a good neighbor. They're both fine. They're both fine, but it's one that really wants to be in there with you. And then with John Lithgow, it's kind of more like he wants to be friends with the daughter, in a kind of grandfatherly kind of way,
right?
Because he says like little things like, oh, you already had me with your great dancing and this and that and so forth. He's a nice guy. They both are, but I do agree with what Eric said, and he is a little bit more direct with don't do this, especially when he actually did it, brought the daughter back, and John Lithgow goes to see him. He's outside of the house, he knows, and he doesn't actually come out and say, hey, I know what you did. He just said things like there's still time
to undo,
and just the look that he's giving Jason Clarke, they're having a whole conversation.
That look he gives him at Ellie's funeral, like he's like, "Don't you frickin' dare!" Doesn't say a word.
And it just shows how great of an actor John Lithgow is. And then of course it gets confirmed when he looks up at the window and he sees the daughter. Like, oh, he actually did it. Like, dude, why did I show you this thing and then you go do stuff? You know, I could have just let you bury where you were digging at first instead of me saying, "Hey, let me show you another spot."
Right.
You know, that once again, wanting to begin with the daughter. He did not want to shatter that daughter's heart. He said, "How important is this cat to your daughter?"
Mm-hmm.
So once again, that's another aspect with him in comparison to Fred Gwynn. With all that being said, I still am going to go with Fred Gwynn. And for some of the same reasons you guys said, there's a little bit more companionship there with him and Jud.
Yeah.
The father-son dynamic, you know, the harbinger trying to warn the new young people, you know, don't go to the cabin in the woods, you know, kind of deal there. The chemistry also for me was a little bit better in the OG. And now that could be because, like I said, he's the neighbor that really wants to be buddy-buddy, whereas John Lithgow is the neighbor that just kind of wants to be neighborly and still nice, but neighborly. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the OG on this one. But both performances are great.
And one more thing I want to give props to Fred Gwynn for. He felt the blame. He took the blame when he breaks down and says, "I murdered your son for introducing you to the power."
Well, that was one thing I was gonna I was gonna say too. Well, hold on, let me back up. Both are great performances, but they're different. And you guys already said a lot of it. But I think with John Lithgow, he had little details that worked really well. Like you guys said, the look, how he said things cryptically and things like that. But Fred Gwynn kind of had the charisma. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there's no shade to either one of these guys. Obviously, you know, I think John Lithgow, acting wise, is the better actor. But, you know, as we all know in movies, sometimes it's about how you connect with the audience. And I think Fred Gwynn connects with the audience better, not just because he's the kind of the nicer version, or like you said, Kill, he wants to be a friend, but I just think just his demeanor, how he talks, what he says, even scenes where the emotion is there, like when Lewis says, "Has anyone ever buried a person?" And he's like, "Jesus on his throne, no," you know, and he pushes the bottle over. It's like little things like that. When I was watching the original, and like I said, I hadn't seen it in like 5 years or whatever, I just smiled. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, this guy, I wish he had done more roles like that. He's perfect. But here's the other part. Yes, they had more time together, which I agree, Eric. They should have done that in the remake, because that was a huge advantage of the film, of the story, is the connection these two men had. And like he said, you know, they've never seen into a man's heart, you know, and blah, blah, blah. It's a big it's one of the big mistakes the remake had, and the remake was very good. But the other thing too, I feel like the OG allowed Fred to kind of wine and dine a little bit. Like when he was doing his monologues, it was fantastic. We almost were reaching Loomis levels for me. I was just like, this is great. I just want to hear this guy do some more talking, telling stories. You know what I mean?
He tells the story when he tells the story of Timmy Baterman. That's scary as shit, dude.
It is scary.
More so because of his narration than what we've seen on the screen.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I gotta also go with Fred on this, but it's tough in the fact that John Lithgow did a great job, and like you guys said, he didn't try to imitate Fred, which was smart. He had his own lane he traveled in, but it just, you know, whether it was because they didn't have enough scenes with them together, or maybe it was how he connected in the story with the characters, it just didn't reach what Fred did. So I'm going with Fred on that one. Okay. JPEG saying Fred had an older, wiser, mature quality about him. Yeah, I agree with that. Nightfall saying that he's going with Fred wins over John Lithgow as much as I love Lithgow. There you go. There you go. We got Mary in the house. What's up, Mary? Saying Fred, an amazing actor, loved him as Herman Munster. That's right. That's right.
My cousin Vinny.
That's right. Yes, the judge. Yep. Man, if that cat dies tonight. Well, actually, no, Fred would have said it differently. You know, if that cat dies tonight, Lewis, you know, that's how he would have done it.
No, Lewis, it's your cat now.
I loved that. Like, there were moments like that. The delivery, his voice.
He had a smile on his face when he said that.
Yes, and it was creepy too sometimes when he said that. Yes, it's your cat now. And he kind of had like the little smirk or smile, whatever, and then he'd turn away, and it's like, bro, this guy, he's got all kinds of riz going on right now, man. So, all right. Next category, Coriander. You knew we were going here. Sooner or later, when we're talking about Lewis, the great Dale Midkiff, and also Jason Clarke, John Connor himself, stepping into Ludlow. Who gets the point and why?
I'm giving it to Dale, just because he's more emotional. He shows it.
Okay. All right. Well said. Well said. Eric, how about you?
I think Jason is really, really good in this when he's trying to be ominous and angry and struggling and stuff like that. But I'm going to go with Dale Midkiff because you got to remember the main reason this happened is because a father loses his child. And I'm going not necessarily for what happens after Gage is gone. It's his interactions with both of his children as a father. He's very sweet, loving. Gage, he's got a little vacuum cleaner or something like that. He pushes it into the door. And he just how he plays with Gage. And then there's those emotional scenes. Like, as much as I do like the faith versus science stuff in the remake, I love that little speech he gives Ellie to convince her, like, is Church gonna die? And then he has to give this whole thing in front of his wife. Well, no, because she's in the kitchen. But either way, he has to talk to an 8 to 9 year old about death. And it's a loved one. It's a cat, and he handles it perfectly with his tone. And then at the end, that genuine smile he gives her when they hug, when she gets the answer she needs to hear at that moment, whether it's the right answer, air quotes, or not, it's just so sweet. And then the last time we see him, I as much as I thought Jason was good with the heaviness, when Lewis loses his mind by the end of both films, I think Dale does it a little bit better.
All right.
Talking to Rachel while he's taking her, it'll work this time. You believed that he believed that because he's that far gone.
Right. All right. Kill, how about you?
This is really tough for me. Because I really like both performances, and there were little things that I liked from different parts and different actors and so forth. Jason Clarke, he just has such a lot of body language when like all of this stuff starts to happen. That is just so good, and you feel bad for him. I mean,
especially in his face.
He's very expressive with the way he's looking and talking and the conversations he's having. And it starts with him after that first night at work with Pascow, when he's coming home, he has the blood on him and so forth. It's just something believable with how he's portraying this big city doctor going to the little city and not expecting that on his first night.
Right.
And then also just the conversations with his wife and the daughter, where they were having the conversation of death and so forth, and the debate on should we really be talking about this with her and this and that, and he's just kind of like, well, but the Dale Metcalf, of course, his performances was just as good. Man, if you ask me on any other day, it might change. I'm gonna go with Jason Clarke on this one.
Okay.
And it's certain scenes like the one where he's talking to John Lithgow and they're kind of having like an Al Pacino, Robert De Niro Heat moment through that screen door, and it's so much that's being said but not said, and their performances are just really, really good. Or like the one where he does bring the daughter back and the wife comes home and he's just kind of like, okay, let me explain, baby. Sort of. It's just something about the way he portrays this grieving dad that really got me. So, but if you ask me on a different day, it might change. But for this one, I'm going with the remake.
Simple line like, hug your daughter, Rachel. He was pissed that she wasn't hugging. So, yeah,
absolutely. For me, it's challenging because I think this is almost like with Fred and John. They're doing great stuff. They're doing different stuff. I think Jason Clarke was more intense in general, which he was able to do really well. Like there were moments, and I think someone earlier used the word brooding. There was a lot of brooding, and he was part of that. There was intensity in his eyes and his face, like you guys said when he says hug your daughter. Whereas Dale was more the emotional, like the untethered version of Lewis. It's tough, man. And it might be because it's almost the same thing with Fred and John. John had a lot of great little details, but Fred had the charisma and just grabbed you, the magnetism. And I think it's the same thing here. Jason had a lot of great details, but I'm going with Dale because I just think that he just grabs me, the emotion, the reaction to Gage. Look, like I said, guys, that's still one of those moments, man. Even if we didn't see the images of young Gage, just the way that scream is similar to like Toni Collette in Hereditary when we know what she sees in the car and she comes in, we don't even see her face. Those type of moments, they're just big for me. So I'm gonna go with Dale on this one. Real quick, Coriander, before I go to the next category for you, and we're gonna start winding down. But I did want to say. Congratulations also to Mayanne. She has a channel member anniversary, 26 months.
Wow.
We're over those 2 years, girl.
Nice.
May, thank you so much for everything you do. Seriously, helping to moderate. I know other streams, happen at the same time that ours does, but I'm glad that you're here to hang out, have some fun, and enjoying what we do, especially with Battle World. It's a series that we really enjoy, and it's something where we try to do things where we have variety, especially like tonight's episode. So thank you so much. She's saying, let's continue celebrating, loving this OG versus remake. Pet Sematary was the second horror movie I saw after Child's Play 3. They both scarred me for life. Well, there you go. Very, very cool. All right. Thank you so much, man. Congrats. Nightfall came in as well with a $2 super chat for that impression of Fred. Laugh out loud. Perfect. Yeah, hey, it just kind of happened. I didn't expect it to be good, but thank you so much, man. We appreciate that. Let's do a clip for you guys. Thank you so much for the support. And, Kill, sometimes just when you think you know what to expect, you come around and you see this.
My name is Heather, and I love birds, and I'm here to find my lovebird. I would describe myself like a cool summer day. I love men who are just open and honest, maybe a little like Val Kilmer. You should know that I have a really nice couch. I love my job. I work at JCPenney. My dream job, I think I'd like to bake croissants. I definitely believe in love at first sight. I mean, is there anything more natural in nature than just seeing a beautiful creature? I'm really good at bird calls. The dove.
Bullshit! Bullshit! Bullshit!
There it is. There it is.
What is going on? I was waiting for her to turn into a werewolf or something, or for somebody to come out and smash a pie in her face or something.
No, we get something scarier. We get Corey Feldman.
Yeah, baby. All right, very cool. All right, we got a couple more categories left. Kill, I know you're up against the clock, so we're going to try to finish this out real quick. Coriander, our next category, Jud's death. Who gets the point when we talk about the death of Jud? Is it the remake or the OG?
Okay, so the original, I mean, yeah, when that Achilles tendon gets sliced, you feel it. In the remake, it's kind of funny because, he kind of, I don't want to say makes fun of it, but, he kicks the bed and it doesn't happen there. It happens when he's going down the stairs. So, I think I'm going to give it to the remake.
Okay. All right. Eric, how about you?
100% the remake. The original is very visceral. We have Church distracting him, and then we have the little slice Then we have, a slice across the mouth, and then it gets kind of goofy, Gage biting his throat out, and it's a doll getting pulled away from Fred Gwynn. Whatever. What I like about the remake is Coriander just brought the fake out, because, you remember Gage was hiding under the bed. He kicks the bed. So now when's it going to happen?
Right.
Walking down the stairs, at first, it's not a slice. He gets stabbed in the ankle.
Yeah.
And then the scalpel is pulled out.
I
He
know.
falls and shoots the gun. And even though he is technically killed off screen, what seals it for me, as I mentioned it earlier, is a scene in the book that always got me, but it was Gage doing it. Ellie turns into a visual of Norma, his dead wife. And she's taunting him. She's down in hell with everybody, blah, blah, blah. It's more stuff in the book. Read that scene, have fun. But it's him taunting her. It's her taunting him as his deceased wife. And that just hits home even more. It's, again, cat playing with its food. It shows how evil this entity from the burial ground really is. And that's what sealed it for me and gave me the vote for the remake.
All right, Kill, how about you?
I'm gonna go with the remake for the kind of some of the same stuff Eric just said. The fake out, you're kind of anticipating certain things, but just the stabbing into the ankle and then the slicing, it's just like it's extra. No disrespect to the original, but I gotta go with the remake on this one.
Okay. And for me, I'm going to go with the remake as well. I think that, they just added some really cool things that heightened the terror and the horror, and especially when Ellie turns into Norma or she has makes him see the vision of Norma and the taunting. I thought that was so fantastic. And again, a shout out to what Ellie was able to bring to the table with this twist that when I first heard that was the twist, I was just like, oh, come on. Not that I thought it was going to be cheap, but I just like, come on, man, what are you doing? But seeing it like I did, bro, it was a fantastic choice because Ellie was able to do a lot of great stuff. And it made you feel more of the power of the cemetery, not just that she's coming back to life from the dead, but the power of it. Like I was saying to Coriander, I was like, man, things are just going in my mind about the power of this place. So, great stuff. Real quick before we go to our next category, we got a channel member anniversary for Oliver as well. 9 months. Thank you so much, bro. We appreciate you. Saying I hope everyone's having a great night. Thank you, Night, and everyone else for another good stream. If anyone knows a good treatment to get rid of pain in the back from a vertebrae touching another vertebrae, let me know. I wish I did, man, but I don't.
I deal with sciatica a lot, and honestly, the only thing I do is a lot of heating pads and a lot of stretching. And it takes a long time, but it does work. And do a lot of walking. If you're sitting down a lot, that's when everything compresses. And it's going to get used to it. You have to walk, even if it's something simple like walking in place for a good 10 minutes. It loosens everything up, and that's what helps me with at least mine. So
all right. Okay. And Russell, this was confusing me the other night or last night, whatever it was, because I didn't know that was you, man. But what's up to Russell saying Jud's death and the OG didn't see the remake? You should check out the remake, man. This is a great conversation about both of these films. It is Paramount Plus as well, which it's a good one. Okay, next up, the finale. Kill, let's start with you. Finale. Who gets the point and why? And we are up against the clock, guys, so let's run right through this.
I enjoyed the finale of both. For me, I'm actually going to go with the remake. And my reasoning for that is it's very ominous because I feel so bad for Gage. Gage is just there, just living his best life in the car, waiting for Daddy to come back. And they come back and they're just walking, one happy family. And then you see Church. Church is leading the way, just walking on the hood. And Gage doesn't even know. He sees his family. He doesn't know that they're about to kill you. I mean, they don't show anything, but it's a wrap. And it's just sad. Really sad when you see Jason Clarke, because he leans down and he kind of just puts his hand on the window, and it's just like, oh no. So for me, just that ominous feeling of what's gonna happen next.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to go with the remake on this one.
All right, Eric.
Remake is really good. It's very sad. And it's a callback to, if you remember how the movie starts, that door is already open and we see blood trails. So we kind of know it didn't end well. I'm going to go with the OG, though, because of I just Dale Midkiff talking to Rachel's body, Victor begging him not to do it. He does it anyway. He's playing solitaire. And we already talked about how nasty Denise Crosby looks, full-on makeout session. He doesn't care because he's lost his mind. But what wins is they throw in a Fred Gwynn quote, a Jud quote. The soil of a man's heart is stonier, Lewis. Grows what he can, he tends it. But then they add something that we haven't heard yet. What you buy is what you own, and what you own always comes home to you. Mm-hmm. That's scary shit as Rachel's walking in because, it's midnight and all that stuff. Original.
Okay, Coriander, how about you?
I think I'm going to go with the remake. Seeing that little boy and knowing he's screwed and he's so cunning. So, yeah.
Okay, the remake. For me, I'm also going to go with the remake. And I'm not gonna be able to tell you fully why, because we got another category before choose. But I'm gonna go with the remake because of all the things that was going on, including the way that everybody's going into the ground, and it's like, what are we doing here? It was just crazy to think of it. And I just think that there was a lot of cool things that they were able to do. So I'm going to go with the remake on this. Now, our next category, which I knew we would probably touch upon a little bit, I want to talk about The Last Shot. Specifically, The Last Shot. Obviously, in the original, it's Lewis and Rachel. And the last shot in the remake is everybody coming up to the car. Which was the more powerful last shot? However you want to define that. Because I think they were both great endings as far as like a stinger at the end. Kill, let's start with you.
The last shot of both were good, but I think I kind of already elaborated a little bit. I'm going to go with the remake here, just for that sheer fact of Gage is so innocent and he's so vulnerable, and he has no idea that that's not his family.
Right.
Even if they don't just break into the car, which they can easily do, he's going to open the door. It's his dad. It's his, it's his entire family, and it's the family cat. And we just know it's not going to bode well for him, and or probably the world. Who knows? So yeah, I got to go with the remake.
Okay, Eric.
Now, if we're talking last shot and just the last shot, I have to go with the remake. As much as I love the original, that's the whole finale. But the last shot here, we have the makeout scene, and we have her picking up a knife and then cuts to black.
Fades. Yep.
It is what it is. Hill said it perfectly with Gage, and it's not just, it's just his family. Gage is smiling. He's happy when they're there. And then you have Jason Clarke with his expression-filled face, looking ominous, puts his hand, and then you hear the chirp unlocking the door. Got to go with the remake.
Coriander, how about you?
Remake.
Okay. I think both are great. They're both ominous. I'm actually going to go with the OG. And I'm going to tell you why. Because, yes, it sucks, Gage, obviously. But look, man, it is what it is, man. 2 + 2 = 4. There's no hope. But I will say this. I think that Gage in the OG, I felt a little bit more connection to it. Not just because he's the one that got killed, but I think what Miko was able to do, just little things, his looks, they had him more front and center in the original. So in that sense, for the remake, I wasn't as invested. That sounds horrible, but I'm just saying as a character. But that original, man, I just felt so bad for Lewis. I know he did everything wrong, but everything he had gone through, and he's just trying, bro. And she comes back, and he's just so messed up. And when she grabs that knife, I remember the first time I saw that, and even when I rewatched it again today, it's just heartbreaking, man. And when it fades and all you do is hear him scream, it's like a
great scream.
It's a great scream. It's a great way to end. So I'm going with the OG on that. Okay, last one. Rapid fire. Kill. We got to choose. Who are you going with?
Remake.
Eric.
The original is my favorite horror movie of all time, dude. You know that.
Okay. I wanted to double check, man, because you were making me nervous before we got here tonight.
Original, sir.
I was like, wow. Coriander.
Oh my god. Oh, let's do original.
Okay. And for me, let me just say this. Both of these movies are great. I'm so happy we did this episode. And I'm glad that we had some folks that joined us here tonight for it. It's definitely, when we get into Stephen King, it can be a roller coaster, but the original is a classic and I love it. But this remake was fantastic in my opinion. I really enjoyed this remake. And I'm telling you guys, keep open minds. And I'm living proof. Time and time again, I've been proven. But I'm going with the original, man. It's Fred Gwynn, baby. Come on. You know what I'm saying. All right. So real quick, rapid fire kill. I know you're up against the clock. Let's just kind of give a recap of what we did. I'm going to count these points really quick and give the winner.
Look, this for me is a great example of when a remake does something different, but they do it well. If you're a fan of the original, that's fine. The original is still a great movie, and if you're a fan of the things that were changed and the little kind of ways that they played with our viewing of this one and our perception of what's going to happen, I think you'll like this as well. I feel this is a great, update. I don't even want to keep saying the word remake. It's a really good update that does a lot of things well and changes things up, which makes it for a good viewing. And I feel bad because I feel like this movie came and went and no one really talked about it too much. Right. No one said good things. No one really said bad things. It just was like, okay, it's just another remake, but it's a really good one. And if you guys have not seen it, definitely give it a view because it's really good.
I've talked countless, I couldn't tell you how many hours on the original film. My channel, this channel, other channels, because I love it that much. It's also my favorite Stephen King novel. But I'm as someone who always champions remakes, because if you're one of those people that for some reason you're just stuck, I don't want to see because it's a remake. This is the perfect example where you will miss a good film if you can't get past the hang-up of a remake. There are some improvements to this with performances and stuff like that. Some stuff that's in the novel is in this. And I'm so glad. I was worried because I knew how much Knight loved the original. And I was worried that this was going to be his first time viewing. I have a smile on my face and know that he really enjoyed it. So that's a little bit of a victory for me. It was very successful, but Kill's right. No one talks about it. So I'm glad we got to give a little bit of shine. Like I always love talking King here, but give a little shine of an underrated and underappreciated entry into King's universe.
Mm-hmm. All right. Coriander, any final thoughts?
When I first saw the remake or whatever this is, I was like, well, I don't know how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really watched it again. So it's been, when did this come out?
2019.
Okay. So it's been, since then, since I've seen it. And rewatching it, yeah, I mean, I would watch it again. So there you go.
Nice. Good. I'm glad you said that because I was wondering to myself. I know you said you enjoyed it, but to what degree? And I think it's definitely a rewatchable film too.
And I'll make this very, very quick because of the time frame. I know a lot of us watched it on streaming. If you enjoy this film, get the Blu-ray for the deleted scenes, especially the original ending. Kill, if you've never seen it and you think this theatrical ending is dark, the original one was too dark. That's why they cut it. And there's more. There's Timmy Baterman stuff that they just cut out for time.
Oh, wow.
It might make you mad because it's not in the film, but I suggest getting it so you can actually see the footage.
Wow, I'm curious about that now. I might have to do that. Real quick, too, I'm going to give the winner. Shout out to Ty saying Last Shot, the remake. Hot take, Pet Sematary Bloodlines is actually kind of decent. I got to admit, man, I didn't. It was all right. Mayanne said she enjoyed it a lot. I did too. It wasn't bad. It had a lot of bad press, but I thought it was all right. All right, guys, we counted it up. We have a score of, it was close at one point, 41 to 32, including the super chat. We get to 46 to 32, and the winner is the OG. The OG comes away. It was close halfway through. The remake was ahead. Halfway through, the remake was ahead. We did get a $5 super chat from Nightfall. That made a little bit of a difference because that's 5 points. But yeah, it was close for a little while. But the last couple of categories, such as Judd and Lewis, and also the cemetery itself, the OG jumped ahead, man. So there we are. Guys, this was a lot of fun. I had some ideas in my head. We'll be talking about that too. But for you guys that were here, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. It really means a lot. And especially when we do these types of streams where we're talking about, underappreciated films or films that not everyone talks about. So again, you guys are the ones that help fuel what we do. So thank you for the support. We appreciate it. Hit the like button, leave us a comment. Make sure you just subscribe to the Night Watch Zone and also to Eric's channel. And we will catch you guys next time. And as always, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.
Cheers.
Shit.